Tonight we're talking about self-love and how to love ourselves guilt-free, right? So I'm sure you've heard the term, it's everywhere. It's TV commercials, social media, magazines, to name a few. And, in a world that says, we can't slow down, we got to learn to create balance in order to reduce the stress that we have and to be able to improve our well-being. I don't know if you are a parent or a spouse or just, being in a career in general, that can deplete us a lot of time and a lot of our energy, right?
Yes.
And I know you've heard the term or the statement, you can't pour from an empty cup. And it's true. If we don't take the time to refuel, you'll end up being depleted.
Yeah.
So all of these things, that are mentioned in the social media world and the like, they highlight the ways that we can love ourselves by practicing self-care, such as going to get massages or facials, which is something I try to do every month, or just even enjoying your favorite activity, whatever that may be. And while those things are important, they don't really teach us how to cultivate self-love. Loving ourselves means that there is, welcome, Kimmy. Loving ourselves means that so far we've just gone through our icebreaker, telling whether you love coffee or tea, if it's either or, you can put it in the chat. But loving ourselves means that there's a strong sense of personal value, trust, appreciation, and belief within. Oh yes, you're our people. You're you're a coffee girl. Love it. Um, but because you see the value in yourself, you're going to then treat yourself with kindness and respect. In addition to that, you're aware of, what you think about yourself and what you then say to yourself. In other words, self love encompasses every single thing, the emotional, the mental, the physical, which are vital to our overall well-being, right? Now, that doesn't mean that you'll always feel good or you'll always be happy with yourself. When you think about somebody in your life that you love, whether it's family or a friend, when they mess up or they do something that, displeases you, do you stop loving them? No. So why would you do that to yourself? If we can love others, then we definitely have the capacity to love ourselves. But the problem with that is that a lot of us don't believe that we deserve it, especially if um, you were, raised in a household where you experienced some trauma, or if you felt that you weren't seen or you weren't heard, or various types of neglect and things like that. I can relate to that personally. Um, it makes it hard because we all want to feel validated, right? We all want to feel affirmed, and so it can make it hard to be able to see that we are deserving of the love. My thing is freezing. One second. Okay, there we go. Um, and then you may turn into a person who is really highly critical of yourselves, or you might fall into a a people pleasing category, or you may become a perfectionist, which we know perfection is an illusion because no one's perfect, and then you end up self sabotaging. Welcome, is it Christine? I can't see all of your name. Um, self sabotaging. Our responsibilities often take the front seat in comparison to um, tuning into our own lives. We are caretakers, we are parents, we have careers and things of that nature. Um, and then we can often forget, hey, I have essential needs as well. And so it can be really hard to accept our perceived flaws and then love ourselves unconditionally in a society that constantly tells us, hey, you need to fix what's broken, right? And then this is why we can't rely on those external sources to reinforce our self love. Does anybody agree with that, or anybody can relate to that? Kimmy, yep, get some hearts, yeah. So y'all get it. Welcome, Tanya. I think that if you were to ask most people if they love themselves, they would say, yeah, you know. But because love is an action word, most times our actions don't align with our words. Showing love to ourselves is not about, how much our clothes cost or how good we look in that outfit, even though it makes us feel good. And it's not about being self absorbed or, someone who's narcissistic and, wants all the attention on them. And it may look different for everybody since all of us are uniquely different, but self love may look like being able to say positive words to yourself, being assertive in situations and not being passive or being a pushover. I'm sure that as you think about times in your life, you may have wanted to be a little bit more assertive, a little bit more aggressive, and not passive. So it can vary, but it's about learning to speak up for yourself and standing up for yourself. Welcome, Drea. Thanks for being here. We're just going over some of the ways that we can see self love. It's also about, and this is huge personally for me, learning to forgive ourselves for past mistakes because we often beat ourselves up, don't we? We think about something that happened and you go, man, if I could have only said that, or why did I do it this way? And I really messed up. But it's all a part of the process of living and learning. Um, Another way that we can show self love is making our health a priority. What we feed ourselves, whether that's physically, emotionally, mentally, spiritually, all of that matters, right? And then don't be afraid to ask for help. I think I talked about this a little bit last week, where sometimes people see asking for help as a weakness. And it's not, because it's sometimes we're in a space where we feel like we have to carry everything. If we are not able to be moms and dads and, you know, caretakers and, you know, um, the person in charge at work, that people are going to look down on us and see us in a lower light. But that's just not true. Um, Another way is learning to releasing anger, releasing things that no longer serve us. Kind of goes along with the um, the forgiveness, forgiving ourselves for messing up in our minds, right? And okay, I'm trying to, Christina stepping in last minute. Okay, thank you, Christina. I'm actually having some problems with my phone. It's freezing. Give me 1 second, guys.
The speaker will be right back.
Thank you for saying something. I couldn't hear anything. I was just about to leave the room again. So thank you.
She'll be right back. And thank you for covering for me, Christina. I actually I was trying, and I just, the closer we got, I was just like, I just did not feel well. I knew I couldn't bring the energy, and so I felt guilty, but I did it. So thank you for covering for me.
No worries. Sorry, I was struggling with technical difficulties, but anything, you're welcome. Are you feeling better today?
Yeah, just dragging.
Guys, I'm going to go out and come back in. I don't know what's going on with my Wi-Fi and my data.
Okay.
Let me see something. Let's see if it's right now.
What does guilt-free self-love mean to you guys? Anyone want to chime in?
I guess self-love that doesn't feel like arrogance or feeling like you're better than anybody, just being on an equal par with everybody, where maybe you came from feeling very below other people, and you've risen up to a level of, oh, I'm a human like everybody else. I can love myself the way I love other humans. That's what I think of.
Do you find it, Eliana, do you find it hard to take compliments then?
I get uncomfortable, but I make myself say thank you now instead of
Hmm.
rebutting, what they're saying. Oh no, I'm not good at that.
Yeah,
Now I just thank you.
I actually had to really think about I because I used to do that. Thank you, but anyone can do it if they just follow the instructions or whatever. Like I always used, so I that's not a gracious way. So I've learned to just say thank you, but I still feel crummy about it.
Yeah, I hear that.
Oh, Tanya just said being able to make decisions without seeking validation. True. That's the best part of being single was.
Okay, I'm back. I kind of heard some of what you guys were saying. Thank you for I'm not sure who asked someone to ask a question to respond, but thank you so much for carrying that. Technology is frustrating. But someone said something about compliments, and that's actually something I'm going to get into. So let me remember
Hmm.
where I was. We were talking about, okay, yes, not being afraid to ask for help. And I think I said something about anger, releasing anger and resentment. Yes, because when we hold on to that stuff, it only hurts us in the long run. It doesn't impact the person. They're going on with their life. They're not thinking about what happened, right? Only we are. Um, Learning to value our feelings, taking accountability for our actions, learning to accept all of ourselves, even with our perceived flaws, and also celebrating our wins, no matter how big or small that they may be. And sometimes it's as simple as going for a walk and embracing our surroundings or the warmth of the sun on a pretty day. I mean, you know, talking earlier with Eliana about me being in Florida, although it's hot, I can go out a little bit later when the sun is kind of going down, but just remembering the small things, the beauty of the nature, the world that we live in. And, even taking yourself out on a coffee for my coffee girls, a coffee date or a tea date or for brunch or for dinner, like learning to enjoy your own company. And it takes intentionality. It's making a conscious effort every single day to do what's best for our own well being, which is why we have to know what our needs are, right? And until we can completely be honest with ourselves about who we are and what we need, we won't see our value, and we definitely um, don't want other people to be the determiners of that. When you think about past relationships, whether that's friends or romantic or whatever, what um, what type of list, whether it's a mental list or a physical list, of qualities, you had a list of qualities that you wanted, right? You can just think about that or you can share it. But more than likely, there were some deal breakers in there too, right? You know what you want, but you know what you don't want. And as you grow and age, of course, that list changes. But do you have those same standards or expectations for yourself when you think about that? Because the most important in relationships starts with us. Learning to love and appreciate that person that's in the mirror every morning, it can be an uphill battle, but it is possible. I personally didn't learn about self-love or really self-care until, I don't know, I'm almost 50, probably early 30s. I mean, I already had my kids and everything. But I think as the oldest child, I was used to making sure all my siblings, had everything in line. And I remember making these weekly checklists of everything that we needed to do. And I would go in and check, 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 check. And that mindset carried over into my adulthood as well. So when I became a parent, it was easy to lose sight of, the things that I needed, because our kids need us for so many things and we can get so lost in the mix. But I learned that at some point, I wasn't failing them by taking time for myself, because becoming the best version of myself is what they deserve, right? Anybody resonate? Yeah, they deserve that. And it can be difficult to start loving ourselves, and I get that. Welcome, Ange. Um, but it's like I said, it's a daily choice and it takes being intentional. And just like we have the negative external influences, there are internal ones too. Because before we start something, our brain has already told us all the reasons why we can't do it or we shouldn't do it. How many times have you almost talked yourself or maybe even talked yourself out of doing something? You might have said something like, can you speak to past mistakes, self-blame, shame, regret? Yeah, I do think I have a little bit of that. Let me put a pin on that and I'll come back to that, Kimmy. Um, how many times have you said or thought some of these things? My life is just too busy already in terms of carving out time for yourself. I don't think I can do this. I'll just wait until my kids get older because I need to take care of them, make sure they're good. I already, survive on 45 hours of sleep. I'll be fine for years to come. But we know that that's not good for our heart. It's not good for our body. It's more than, it's not enough for us, you know? Um, Self-harm is something that I think that you should speak with, well, start with the therapist to get to the root of why, because I have a friend who used to do that and she was doing that to cope. We all make ways to cope, whether that's self-harm, whether we drink, whether we eat, which is also self-harm. So it all goes together, but it's all done to numb the root, to numb the issue, to avoidance. It's about avoidance, avoiding what the real pain is. And so we are focusing on something else. If I focus on doing this comes to be some type of thing that soothes me in some way. It's a crutch that I'm using. Then I can feel something else and not feel what I really need to feel. I don't know if that helps a little bit. Feeling too old to do something new, or being afraid to tap into what you really feel and need. So you just compartmentalize and put it in the back. I'll worry about it later. All of those thoughts are normal, and it's okay to feel afraid or anxious, but you don't have to make those changes at once. It's a little, doing things little by little and envisioning ourselves doing them is a great way to promote our well-being while also believing that we can and we're deserving, right? Because self-care and learning to love yourself is not selfish. I mean, I don't know if you're, people of the faith, but even Jesus took time to withdraw and go pray, you know? So we have to use the time to regroup and reset, and it's necessary. I think it's about, oh, that's good. The Trevor Project that Kimmy put in the chat. I've never heard of that. But looks like that may help you. Is it Ronise or Ronise? Hope I'm saying it right. Maybe start there, and maybe they can give you some other resources as well. Thank you, Kimmy. Ways that we can practice putting self-care into practice. We have to learn to get to know ourselves. Remember, you are in a relationship with yourself. Maybe you need to redefine it. When we get into a new relationship, it's all the feels. You want to know all about this person, what they like, what they don't like. You pay attention to what that person does and all their quirks and things like that. Well, we have to learn those things about ourselves too. Don't be afraid to try something new, because we change as we age. And what you liked yesterday may be different from what you like today. Ronnie's, I would say make a list, or I don't know if you journal, maybe write down what you don't like about yourself and why. And once you figure that out, come up with ways to counter that. Say, we all have weaknesses. We all have weaknesses. And I think that's what makes us who we are. But learning to tap into those weaknesses and learning how we can turn that around is vital, you know? Yeah, I would start with the Trevor Project because I don't deal with, cutting or anything like that personally, but that would be a way to start for sure. But learning how to determine what those things are and how we can counter them with positive things. How can we turn this negative thought, this negative belief into something positive? Because the mind is going to keep telling you negative every single day. That's just what it does. Also, you can try to write down one thing that you've always wanted to do or you haven't done in a long time. Get a journal and add to it as you go. You can write down, how doing these things made you feel and why, and be curious about the person that you're becoming or the person who you want to become. Who is Kimmy, Kelly, Eliana, Christy, Claudia, Roman, Ronise, Ange, can only see K-E-R, Christine. Who are you on the inside? What has been dimmed because of your life or your circumstances? Tap into that. And then I heard someone talking earlier when I had the phone issues about a compliment. We have to learn how to accept them. And that's been huge for me personally. Because often when someone says, okay, Ronise, I don't understand. Honey, you have a purpose. Okay, and I'm sorry for everyone that's on here. I just need a sidebar. You have a purpose. We all have a purpose in this world. And just because you don't understand it, that doesn't decrease your value. That doesn't diminish who you are. Those thoughts are not of your creator. So I really implore you to know that you are loved, you are beautiful, you are needed in this world. So I hope that the resource that Kimmy provided can help start. I am also a advocate for suicide prevention. There's a number called, you can text or call 988 as well. Okay, so I hope one of those two can help you. Compliments. Often we tend to say thank you, but, oh girl, you look so good in that dress. Thank you, but no, practice saying thank you very much, period. And then learn to accept and affirm yourself so that you are not relying on what other people say to validate you. Has anybody ever dealt with that? Being hard to accept compliments, not really seeing. Yeah, a lot of people can relate. It's definitely a process. And then sometimes we need to just unplug from social media, go on a little break. It's so much negativity on there. It can be draining. There's so much stuff that makes you want to compare yourself to people's lives, but we know people only post the best of the best. They're not going to post what they're really going through. Everybody's doing everything for the gram and Facebook and all these other things, but those things that's not real life. And then we can practice gratitude for all the things that we that are good in our life, even when it seems the darkest, right? Look for the smallest glimmer of light. We know that on a rainy and a stormy day, we can't see the sun, but it's there and it's going to come back through, right? Another thing is learning to say no. I believe that no is a complete sentence, because you are not obligated to attend every function that you're invited to, or to do something that you don't feel like doing, or even to answer a call or respond to a text. Put that phone on do not disturb. If you have, kids or family, you need to create a custom notification, do that. But we are so caught up in our phones. How many of us touch our phones as soon as we wake up and scroll? It's too much. Learn to sit in comfortable silence for a few moments each day, even if that's in the bathroom, if that's the only place you can go. Embrace being with yourself, appreciating all you've been through, the body that keeps going for you despite how you treat it. Take deep breaths, slow, deep breaths in and blow it out, blowing it out slowly with anything that no longer serves you, right? What if you say no to someone? What do you mean, Ronise? When you say no, then what happens? You can unmute. Christina says, I don't scroll, but I grab my phone immediately. Yeah, I'm guilty of it. I try to not do it, but it's hard. It is hard. And the benefits, there are many benefits of self-love. Welcome, Frankie. Benefits of self-love. It lowers our stress, because when you have a strong sense of self-love, you're better equipped to tackle challenges. Life has challenges every day. If you wake up thinking that life is going to be perfect, the day is going to be perfect, it's not. You may have good days and some are, better than others, but rest assured that challenge is waiting on you, right? And so when you're in self-love and you see yourself, you can look at those challenges as just a temporary setback or an opportunity for growth, which then helps you become more resilient. It also leads to you becoming more likely to take risks, and not just, the fun kind, adventure, which is me. I love adventure. But because you have faith in yourself, you'll believe that you're worth it. You're worth the investment. You're worth the time. You're worth the effort, whether it works out or not. Because like I said last week, the only way you fail is if you don't try, right? And Ronnie says, is if you say no and they don't take no for an answer. Well, that's the last tip on my list. That's a boundary. No, if they don't accept your no, then you need to create a boundary for that person. That person doesn't respect you. They don't respect your needs. They don't respect your desires. And you have to. We did an exercise about creating circles. You have an inner boundary and you have an outer boundary. An inner boundary to protect yourself from other people, and then the other one to protect other people from when you may not act in the way that you should act. But a boundary is set. You set your boundary. This is my rule. If you do not, acknowledge or respect my rule, you have to go. And sometimes people don't, um, belong in our lives. People, relationships come and go, just like life, ebbs and flows. And so it's all about knowing what you want, knowing what you deserve. And if that person can't respect that, then they have to go. Yeah. You can't keep yourself safe, then I would involve the police. Don't play around with your life. That's definitely nothing to play with. Also, having self-love, it creates empathy and compassion for others. Because when we can see ourselves and accept who we are, accept our strengths, accept our weaknesses, we're able to hold that space, right? Because no one's perfect. Everybody messes up. And this goes back to regret and guilt and all of those things. if we allow them to, regret will beat us up, will totally beat us up. And there's Kimmy, I did a live course some months back, and I also recorded it. It's on my website, favoritandfree.com. There's a webinar that kind of leads you up to it, but it's also a paid course. But I talk about self blame, shame, and regret, and all of that, and that we're meant to not only survive, but we're meant to thrive. So I encourage you to check that out. But essentially, blame doesn't belong to us. We do not have to accept people's projections of us, of them, what they think about us, onto us. And shame, it doesn't belong to us. We don't have to carry that kind of stuff. Like I said, we all make mistakes. We are imperfectly perfect people. And there is no condemnation in those who love Christ. So that doesn't come from above. That comes from you know who. And, it's a process to just understanding that we have to let that go. And there's a poem that I want to, not really a poem, but something I saw the other day by Christine Kane. I want to try to find it in a second. I'll read it about regret. But that last point about boundaries, setting boundaries and being okay with them, regardless of who or what other people think. That's not your business. That's their problem. And, knowing who and what to give our energy to, and who and what isn't deserving is so vital, because people are energy drainers, you know, but we have to, just like we schedule our hair appointments, our doctor appointments, book early flights and car services and all these things, even automatic bill pay, we deserve to create time to love on ourselves, don't we? Right? That's my grief site, yes. But let me put the one in here I was talking about. Yeah, if anyone wants to do a consultation for grief, that's my grief site in the chat that Kimmy put. And then Favored and Free is kind of my site that tells you everything that I do. And that's where the courses are also. So let me see if I can find this about regret. Give me 1 second, because the last time I tried to read something from my phone, it took me out of the room and nobody could hear me. So, real quick. But while I'm looking for that, does anybody want to chime in on any thoughts about tonight? Any questions they have? Any experiences? Anything they've learned throughout life about their journey? Everybody's shy today. Let's see.
I guess I'll just say a comment on what you said about, how we're kind of socialized to take care of our kids 100% of the time, but we're not taught to take care of ourselves while we're taking care of our kids.
Mm-hmm.
And I just realized that this year that I taught my kids how to treat me because I never took care of myself. And then like 3 years ago, when I started to the process of taking care of myself and getting to know myself and become healthier, one of them didn't like it.
Mm.
And we don't have contact with each other because she was not supportive of me being my authentic self and healthy and honest, and I think it freaked her out, like maybe she didn't recognize who I was anymore.
Yeah,
And I wish that I had taught them all along that everybody deserves that care.
absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing. I'm sure that's very tough, especially when it is your child, right? And as much as I'm sure that probably hurts, um, coming from different situations that I've dealt with my kids, you know, being the key word, your authentic self. You're never wrong for that. You're never wrong for standing up and being who you were, being who you were taught to be, in all of your brightness and your light and your authenticity. And all that you can do is pray for her and you know pray that she comes around and that it won't always be that way. Maybe she needs the time to really think about um, how selfish she's being. And I get it; it's new for her, but you deserve every part of the boundary that you set. And so I hope that you find peace with that.
Thank you.
You're welcome. I thought I saw Christy's hand. Somebody's hand was up. All right, here is the thing on regret. So this is by Christine Kane. This was a post a couple of days ago. She said, regret is a great robber. It robs us of our peace, our joy, our confidence, our courage, and our faith. We all have things we wish we had done differently, said differently, thought differently, or to which we had reacted differently. But there's no going back, no changing it. But if we have repented and done what we can do to make things right, then we must come to a place where we stop rehearsing what we cannot relive. The reason God's mercies are new every morning is because it's because we, as flawed human beings that we are, need new mercies every single day. God still redeems, restores, renews, revitalizes, and recharges. You can't go back, but you don't have to stay where you are. In Christ, you can move forward. You can have a fresh start. You can have a new beginning. Just trust Him and receive what He has for you. And that stood out to me because, you know, I've had my ups and downs, dealing with regret about a certain situation. And she's right. That first sentence, it is a robber. It robs you of everything. It robs you of being in the present where you are today because you're looking over your shoulder about something that's done. No matter how many times we ruminate about it, releasing the guilt, releasing the shame if you shamed yourself about it. Once you've acknowledged it, repented, asked for forgiveness, if there's another party involved, then that's all that you do. Because, you know, um, we all deserve grace, right? Even with ourselves. I wasn't sure if it would be a question for this group, but since you're versing grief, what is it about grief that destroys a person? Bad things happen, you get back up and try it again. But when it comes to the loss of a loved one or a relationship, it destroys you and changes the entire self and the outlook of the world. You don't just get back up. Absolutely. When people are grieving, and I don't know if all of you know this, but most of the classes that are on here, unless the facilitator decides not to, all of them are recorded. And so they go on Spotify under Circle Support. And so all of my classes that I have taught in the last 8 weeks are on there. And if you go on there and you look up week 4, it was on grief and gratitude. Talked a little bit about that. And then I believe in my very first one called Unexpected Departures, I talked about grief in depth because that is, I experienced my first round of grief at 3 years old when I lost my mom to suicide. And so those events, as well as other events in my life, led me to the point of becoming a grief coach. So I would go on, check out weeks 1 and 4 about grief, and that may help you as well, to listen to those. And they are free. So the question rather, that I want to leave you guys with, to take with you and just to think about in your own lives, is, will I make a choice not to betray myself while trying to please others going forward? Will I make a choice not to betray myself or abandon myself and what my needs are while trying to please others? It was a post on Facebook, Diane, that she made. Let me see, is it a public post? I don't know if you have Facebook or not, but it's a public post. So if you're on Facebook and you look up Christine Kane, she posted it 3 days ago, and it's about regret. Did you want me to say it, or you were asking me to put it in the chat? Yeah, I don't know if, let me see if it will kick me out of the room because I had it saved, and for some reason I was told that they don't really let us put links in there. They don't want us to, but I see, obviously we put my site. I don't know how to upload the picture. Let's see. No, it's okay, and we still have time. I'm trying to see how I could do it. Clipboard. Yeah, I don't know. Like Ellen is typing something. Well, okay, so I talked a little bit about how self-love is not selfish, because we all deserve it. We all deserve to do things that pour into us, that improve our self-worth and our self love. You know, someone who's exhibiting self-love is different from someone who is, being narcissistic. Narcissistic and selfish people don't care anything about the people in their lives. It's all about me, 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 me. I'm going to do this and flaunt it in your face. And I have no empathy for what you're going through or what you need. Self-love is, look, I understand who I am. I deserve the very best. Sometimes that may look like me taking time away from what I'm doing day to day so that I can be here for you, so that I can be my best self. I'm setting a boundary. I am, doing things that make me happy. Does that make sense? And doing it because you deserve that. We weren't put on this earth to just pour out, pour out, pour out. We have to refuel. What happens to a battery over time? It gets drained, and then we need a jump. Well, we shouldn't be living our lives where we just are so drained and we just need a jump to start back, living the best life that we deserve. So again, anybody that came in late, this message and all the other messages are on Circle Support. This on Spotify for you to re-listen to. And thank you all for coming in, sharing your heart and your space with me, and for being vulnerable and transparent in this space. And I hope that you got something from it. When you leave out, please leave a comment I always like to see those thoughts about the class and how I can improve. So it is almost Friday. As Eliana, it's our Friday Eve, girl. So tomorrow's Friday, and I hope that you guys have a great weekend. Thanks for coming in tonight. You're welcome.